Testing the microphone. Okay, welcome to the stream today. It's been so long since I've been here. Just getting reset up back in the new studio here. Let's go into code mode. Yeah, it's been a long journey this last month, moving across the province, coming here, setting up. I'm enjoying being in this studio space here, though it's kind of mismatched setup right now. So if you're watching, if anybody's watching, let me know if you can hear the music, if you can hear my voice, if I need to adjust anything. Please feel free to let me know. New schedule, trying 8:30. We'll see how this goes. We'll see if I like this. I'm trying to decide if I want to sit or stand, or yeah, lots of changes, but this studio could be good to use. I'm in the basement at a condo that my wife and I have in Alberta, so it used to be set up. This is was a bar. I bought this place back when I was in my 20s and turned this place in the basement into kind of a movie theater slash bar slash karaoke hub. So now it's going to be used as kind of a Twitch studio, coding studio, and I think this spot's going to be good here. I need to get a mat for the floor because I'm noticing my feet are pretty cold. It is a basement. And I've got this new camera here, although I'm not sure if I'm going to be using this camera or what I'm going to be doing. I'm not sure about the lag. I'm not sure about I'm not sure about a lot of stuff, but we'll see how things go. With the new schedule, I think I'm going to try and do most days anyway. To kind of start my day out, I think it'll be a good way to focus myself and work on some projects that are kind of fun and just get into the code mode, and also share what I'm working on with people, with you guys watching, and share my process. So maybe let's get into it. I am working on cliche sort of task management tool, kind of a to-do list, but the intention is, number one, I'm learning NextJS. I haven't worked with it before, so I'll be kind of figuring that. I mean, most of the stuff I'm going to be doing on stream right now is going to be just the React and design stuff, because that's what I'm more familiar with, but we may run into some things with NextJS. We'll see. Eventually we'll be hooking this up to MongoDB with Mongoose and Apollo, kind of using level up tutorials. Shout out to Scott Tolinsky for a great video series on NextJS to kind of show how to do that. My main microphone's not working because my laptop's only got a couple USB ports, so I'm kind of figuring things out. I got my other desktop that I'm going to be setting up hopefully today to be able to do more, and hopefully we'll be able to get the stream improved even more. Let's just adjust this one more time. When I'm sitting, it needs to be down a little bit. This is one advantage to having a camera separate from my laptop, and so I think it's a little bit better quality anyway. So yeah, let's get into it here. So with Next, it automatically gives you this npm run dev command, and maybe I am wrong. What's going on here? Command not found. Let's try that now. npm. Interesting. Apparently npm has stopped working. Well, it looks like the first thing we're doing is debugging why npm is no longer on my machine node. Whoops, let's see if node is on there. I ran into some issues with Node the other day. I needed to update, but for init, is that gonna work? No. Okay. I know that I had to make some changes in my settings. Let's see. Maybe I have to reinstall Node? I installed Node a little while ago and it was working. I think maybe that music's a little loud. What do you guys think? Is it okay? Are you able to hear me? Oops, not my subscriber list. Let's just reinstall Node and see what's going on here. This does not need to be up. Change the way. Let's repair it. See what happens here. This is the type of thing that happens as a web developer, as a software developer. Sometimes I get so ready to work on a project, and then all of a sudden the dev environment stops working, or something stops working, and you have to spend the time that you were going to be planned on working fixing it. It seems to be just all part of the challenge, which I think wasn't as big of a deal when I was working I used to work municipal government, and when I had a salaried position, and you were just paid by the day and paid by the month, paid by the year, not by the hour. It wasn't as big of a deal. I mean, obviously you want to get it up and running, and there's still projects and deadlines and stuff, but when you're literally being paid by the hour freelancing, it gets a little bit more frustrating, because then this time here now is not this time, because I'm just doing my Twitch stream right now, but this is the time that I would be needing to work, and so now this would be time not billable. Although I'm not really sure, I'm still trying to figure out the freelancing thing, like realistically, and trying to accept my value and try to charge what I'm worth, not what I think I'm worth. I mean, it's subjective, it's challenging, because I want to be able to work with people and work on good projects and fun projects, and sometimes people can afford it, sometimes people can't, and I need to pay the bills, so yeah, it gets a bit challenging, I find, to try and figure out how much do you charge for stuff like this. Like, would I charge my clients for this particular time to set this up because I need this environment, but a contractor wouldn't charge a client to go to the store to buy a new hammer. And I also feel in a lot of ways that I undercharge now because of what a lot of developers are talking about, is that imposter syndrome. I mean, I've been a developer for more than 15 years now, but because there's always new stuff that you have to learn, it never feels like I'm on the top of my game, or like it feels like I'm always learning, always like in this well, I can't charge a ton because I don't know, even though I actually have a lot of experience, and I'm able to build some pretty cool things in a quick amount of time because of that experience. So there's that value add. How do you charge for the value that you bring to the table? If anybody has any thoughts on that or suggestions, feel free to throw them in the chat. So if you were following along before too, I was working on the Twitter clone, and maybe we'll come back to that at some point, but I think I kind of need to shift into something else. And that was just HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and I think I will probably work on that a little bit more at some point, but for now I think I want to switch to this task management system. I don't need that. Now let's see. Oops, not IV-V, so it's still not there. What is going on? Let me open up Git Bash and see if we have the same thing there. So we have Node. npm is not there. So installed Node. I'm not sure why npm is not there. Whoops. Let's get rid of that. That's not working. Let's go here. Whoops. Let's try this. See what this does. I have not run into this before. I think this may have to do with my environment variables, so let me check that. I've made some changes to the environment variables to get Node to work, but system advanced environment variables, and then we have our path here, our system path. And we have Node, but we don't, oh, there's npm. So let's, I think that might have to be above that. Let's try that, and let's go in here and do the same. Do we have npm? We've got it here, and then we've got it here. Maybe it needs to be above Node. Let's try that. Install npm? No. we have our npm. Let's move node up above. We have two of these here, so I'm not sure. Maybe let's remove one of them. And I think maybe without the slash, let's try that. And let's check this one as well. We have node, and then we have that, okay. Okay, so node isn't working in there either, so let's just reopen. And this is completely frozen. Let's reopen VS Code. Oops, not OV, but npm might, what is that? What's going on here? Oh, it looks like maybe npm is back. Command not found. Node. Node is there. There we go. Run dev. Let's. Good thing I have the extra half an hour. So we're going to try the schedule 8:30 till 10. I'm not sure if that's what I'll stick with. So we got this next dev. Yeah, okay, so there we go. Now we're up and running. So if you were unsure of what I did, so basically in order for npm to work from every directory, you need to add it into an environment variable, and the environment variables in Windows allow you to run commands from any, it basically treats it as if you are in that folder all the time, or at least allows you access to the files in that folder all the time. In order for npm to work, Node has to be installed. So my npm, for whatever reason, variable, environment variable, path variable was below Node in the list. So it tried to install npm, or tried to run npm, didn't have access to Node. So I had to swap those and then restart the application. And now we seem to be up and running again. So this is where we're at right now. All we can do is add single tasks to this. We have a task form, which I am using the Level Up Tutorials fresh form library, which I may or may not change. It seems to work, but I'm not super familiar with it, and I don't know if I'd like to check it out more and see. I'm always, being a developer myself, I know how to build my own form, and it's always that tricky, do I use somebody else's form library and try and learn it, or do I build my own? And I'm learning to try not to reinvent the wheel, even though as a developer it is not always the easiest. But we have this task list that just maps through a list of tasks, and then an individual task just shows that we have these buttons here that are not showing up. So I'm not entirely sure if... Oh, right, so we're just using this H1. So that's the first thing that we can do, is actually implement the task. Our index.js is just... So, oh yeah, okay, so the way that Next works, you create pages. If you put an index.js, that's the index page for this folder. You can add folders. This would be /project/ whatever. And square brackets, it's a little interesting syntax, but that is how you add parameters in Next.js. And then the reason that I want to use Next.js, or I want to learn Next.js, is because it allows you to have an API that runs, because there's server-side rendering with it, on the same server at the same time application. So you're not trying to run two different applications, which is something that I find really it kind of makes sense, I guess. It allows you to separate your API from your system, but that isn't always the easiest, the best way, I don't think. This way allows me to create an API in the same folder. So let's implement this task list. So it accepts a task, it's got the task, and it's not going to just be task, but for now let's leave that. We've got task already imported, so instead of this h1 I'm going to use a task, and the task equals task, and then we need a key because we're mapping, and I'm just going to give it the index. This needs to close, and then we're going to need to also get the index from here. Now, if we refresh this, we should only have one of them again. And if I add it, now we've got these buttons here. So let's start styling some stuff. Let's go back into here, and this is our initial task. So I'm just going to give myself a task of get npm working again, so that at least now I've just got a task in there to begin with. I don't have to add one. So let's start styling this thing. So the way that styles work in Next.js is you can do like style JSX. Oops. And then you do backticks. No. Which is okay. Looks like I'm supposed to do this. And so let's just see ground blue and see what that does. Oh, but I think I actually have to go like this. And this is an individual task. Okay, so there's that's how styles are by default done in here, but I think my preference is to use style components, at least right now. My preference actually I think would be to use style sheets, although then you have to scope everything yourself, so I go back and forth. I'm an older developer, so we were taught for many years that you never put your CSS, your styles with your logic, but more and more I'm thinking that I actually really prefer style components. I like the scoping aspect of it, so we'll see. So let's install styled components. And so the idea of this task manager project or list sort of thing is it's kind of the cliche to-do list, but also I would like to add hours tracking in. And ideally it will be sort of a web maintenance project client management tool that I can use. Right now I use just Excel spreadsheet, which works. It creates a ledger. It's the simplest way to record data. But it's not the greatest for sending to clients or showing things, and I have to do a bunch of manual work in order to create invoices, so that's kind of my main target, is to figure out a way to essentially record the same information that I'm recording, but with some more automated options. And so I'm always going to have a task, and then each task is going to have sort of steps or notes, I think, which would be just sort of items. And then, or kind of a comment thread, maybe. Comment thread. And then I can complete the task, I can delete the task, or I can add hours to it. So that's where this add and subtract is here. And so actually we'll also have here I'm going to separate that into its own thing, but for now let's do, so we're going to have the task and we're going to have hours, and we're going to have status. So let's do that. Let's come into here, and so then instead of just a text item, this will end up being an object, and it's going to have the task, status, incomplete, we'll just mark it as that, and hours, and we'll say 0. So then our task list has tasks, which then our task list has the tasks, and we get the task. So this is going to be .task. Let's just clean this up a bit. We have the status, and then we have the hours. And then in our task, we're going to have the task, we're going to have the hours, so now that should show up with a 0. And then we're going to have status, incomplete, actually this is going to be, instead we'll have this, so status equals incomplete. We'll have, if it's not complete, we'll have the option to complete it, or we'll have, and this is going to be this, incomplete. And then we get rid of that there. Give us some more room, and here. Now the hot reloading doesn't seem to be working. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, no, that's because it's not running. So maybe the hot reloading is working. Ready, let's see. Our index, how did I set this up? We got this layout, so let me just adjust this layout because I want to just give this some space. I did install styled components, so from in here I'm going to import styled from styled components, and I like to put my styles down at the bottom, so I'm just going to do a const, and that's usually my style.div. This is kind of the way that I typically do mine, and then that way I can put this here, and it's not a div, it's a main. And I'm just going to make it display flex. We'll wrap this in a div so that this can be a line items center. Let's see how that works. Justify content center. It's going to be sure. That's good enough for now. Head is from NextJS head. Oh yeah, because that actually comes from here, my task list. Where is my tasks coming from? Layout, favorite children, oh it's here. So if I want to add a header, I can do that in the layout. My tasks. And there is no styled header, so now we go into here. Let's do this display flex item center flex direction column. Let's see what that looks like. To see where we're at here, and then we can give I'm gonna need to get rid of some of, let's do into our global styles here. Box sizing, border box, that's fine. Let's do some resets here. Actually, I think I just want to install normalized CSS. And I'll go into here, I believe. Let me see how I did it in another project. I think let's try here and see. There's normalize in here. No. Because it might be different for a okay, so I should be able to just import. This is a create React app versus a normalized CSS, but let's see what happens. So I've installed that. npm run dev. Let's get that back up and running, and let's just try importing normalized CSS. Let's see if that works. No, it's still starting up. And if this did work, then we should see a little bit less padding on sort of the headers and things like that. Global CSS cannot be imported from files other than your custom app. Please remove all global CSS imports to page. Okay, so let's do this. And I like to separate them like that. Let's do that. Under app, so let's import this first and see if that fixes it. It's a little bit different with NextJS. Okay, cool. I think that's working. That's working. Although I'm not sure why this is not working now. Now my stopped components are not working. Let's move, give it a bit more space, and let's pull up the dev tools. And see what's going on here. I don't need that. Class name. Installed header. Let's try just restarting. There we go. Okay, so there was just something up with the... We still... Although I'm not sure now if normalize is working. Yeah, it seems like it is. But, so that means I'm going to have to adjust these a little bit. So, let's give my H1 a margin of 0. Let's just see what's going on here. Interesting. So I wonder if, for some reason, stock components. Let's try doing this so I'm wondering if there's something unique you need to do in order to... Oh, but then we don't have that. Let's take a look. Styled components in NextJS. Is there anything interesting? Anything different we need to do? Bundle with style JSX, which is full scoped and component friendly CSS. It on the server or the client, and while this is great, I'd rather use style components. Yeah, that's my preference too. Add scripts to your package JSON. Create a pages directory. Done all that. Add styled components. Yeah. You'll get an error. This is because we haven't set up the correct configuration yet. Not to worry, we are doing that. Okay. Add Babel plugin and custom. So style components Babel plugin as a dev dependency. Then create a Babel. Okay. This, I think, is what we need to do. So that's good to know. So when using styled components with Next, there is some extra steps that we need to take to get it to run properly. So let's give that a shot. I don't know why. If anybody knows why, sometimes I can't just X out of the... Control-C usually works, but not always. Let's add this, and we wanted a dev dependency, a Babel plugin styled components, and then we will create a .babel rc file. Add style components plugin. Set the SSR flag to true, display name to true, and preprocess to false. So our presets, next Babel, our plugins is the style components, and then we're doing that because we are working with server-side rendering. Create the custom document file. If you have never used Create React App before, if you have used, you are used to knowing where your main document is. Well, NextJS does not expose this file, but you can override the default document by adding a document.js in your pages folder. Styles into the head. Okay, let's just try this. In our pages, new file, document.js. And let's take a look. So we're getting document, head, main, and next script. Extends document, initial props, render page. Main, next script. Let's try this. Looks once we've added the SSR styled components. Oh, I see. So this is what it looks like by default, and then this is what we're doing. So the different, we're getting server style sheets from styled components. Get the initial props, but we're doing a server style sheet. Now I've done this in this layout instead of the document. So maybe we don't put the head in here into our layout. Let's just get rid of that, because I think we're going to be doing that by default in this document. And this is going to be my tasks. I'll put the styles in the head, which is this props.style tags, okay. Also a way to use plain CSS files with NextJS. I'll be writing that in. But yeah, so that would be the other option, but so let's now run dev. Let's see how this looks now. Are we going to get both? So in NextJS, we've got this underscore app and this underscore document now, so that's how you kind of expose those. They're there by default, but don't actually, or they get created by default, probably in this next folder somewhere. Using external Babel configuration, yeah. An error. It's not this error, this is a different one. Styled is not defined. Oh, because I need to import styled. The spacing, margin 0, cool. Okay, so let's give this a height of 100 pixels. 75 pixel. Center, justify content center. Should be good. Let's make H1 font size 1M. 2M, and then we do H2 font size of 1.4M, and then a span in there. We want the font weight to be bold, and by default we want this font weight to be 400, and then this will be 900. That's good. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to, instead of red for now, and we'll do a color of white. I'll be refining the styles as we go, but for now, this looks pretty good. Okay, so we've got styled components working. That's good. Let's do this then. We can do get styled components working with NextJS. Now ours are going to go up by 0.25. Looks like we've got something going on with the form is not showing up anymore. Is this where now we're at here? So I'm not sure why this form isn't showing up. But let's go into here and actually our styled main. I'm going to give a padding of 25 pixels and 0 on the sides. Maybe I'll do both, because that way. And we'll say a max width of 600 pixels. I just want to see, whoops, what this looks like. Okay. So it's actually not centered because oh, I see. Okay. So let's make our width view width, and then we have a div. We're going to make it a max width of 600 pixels, and this is where the padding of 25 pixels goes. Let's keep that for now, and we'll call this blue. There. That looks better, but we don't want this to be div, or we do, but let's give it a class name of content. And we'll call this content for now. We'll just do that for now. Good. So let's start. Our form isn't working, but let's go to a task. An article. So I'm going to make this actually a style task, and we need, so this is something with Next. It by default imports React, so you don't have to import React, so that's kind of nice, although I in some ways think it would be better. You can put it in, I think, and it might be better to do that as somebody coming into the code, although if they know they're using Next, then they should know that they're using React. styled component from styled components, and let's go styled task equals styled article. No, cool. Let's give it a border, 1 pixel solid, and we're just going to give it like a light gray. Padding 10 pixels. Maybe we won't, because actually the items inside I want to have that. So let's see what this does. And plus article, we want a margin bottom of 10 pixels. Maybe we want a margin top of 10 pixels. There we go. Okay. And we're gonna do border radius 20 pixels. Now, Tailwind CSS has some nice drop shadows, so I'm going to grab them from there. Level drop shadows. Yep. Where is the docs? Components? Buttons, cards. Let's try that stacked. Where is how do I first responsive design, base styles, layout, flex, grid, box, spacing, sizing, typography, backgrounds, border radius, tables, effects, box shadow. Here we go. Let's grab this one here. See how that looks. Might be a little too dark. Let's actually do this and then do and hover. We will put this in here. We'll give this a transition box shadow, 0.3 seconds, ease in, out. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks good, although I think I want this one. Just a little too dark, the other one. Too big. Let's try that. Cool. And we are going to want possibly a color on one side to I'm not gonna worry about that right now. If we're going to want like categories or anything like that, I'm going to make it as simple as possible to start with, and we'll add complexity. But what we do want is, we've got our H3, so these all, our task runs into there. We have our complete, instead of an H3, this is going to be a, maybe it'll be an H3. Sure, let's make it an H3. So then in here, now we can do this. We can do an H3 font size 1M. We actually want this to be display flex. And then this is going to be width of 90%. There we go, that looks better. And it's going to have a padding of 1M, 1.5M. And font weight 400. 10 pixels, 15 pixels. I'll put this in a span. And so this is going to be a hours, and this is going to be options. And we won't have a remove button. So I'm going to do gesture based. I'll make it so you can right click and delete or swipe and delete. So let's do hours. And display flex, flex direction, column. And when we have a span, we're going to have it center, font size 2M, font weight 700. .5 M. And so instead of a subtract and add, we're going to go a minus and a plus, and eventually we'll switch that to some like font awesome icons of some sort. So I think I want plus on the top. And then we've got our options. Display flex, line items, center, justify, content, center. And instead of complete and incomplete, we're going to make it an X and an O for now. Instead of a width 90%, I think I'll do width 100%. And then our hours will do a width of 60 pixels. And same with our options. I wonder if it would make more sense to do this. Yeah, I think that's better. That way I can adjust the hours. And what happens if, no, it's in our index. Our task is really long. Okay. That works. OEBNGO, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. So I'll just give myself a long one there just so that I can continue to style this. And we will want some kind of a handle to be able to drag because we're going to need to reorder these. So let me also, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're going to be going for another 15 minutes here, so not super long, but I'm hoping to do this daily, so maybe we'll see you again tomorrow. So we've got that. Let's div class name equals handle. And let's try that. And then height 100%, width 10 pixels, I might need a little bit more, 20 pixels, and background color. Let's just see that. Display block. Let's take a look, oops, and see why that's not showing up. Here's my handle. It looks like handle is there. But we're not seeing it. Okay, so that's why. So our article, let's try doing this, and then the absolute. It's gonna work, but it's going to push that over. Actually, we need the options. Adding left 20 pixels. So it's going to work. It's not necessarily the best option. We also need to make this overflow hidden. Then we get our rounded corners back. Actually not because of that. Okay, so that's not going to work. So we don't want the position absolute. We might want that to be position relative, but I mean, that's the other thing too, is I don't need to do I don't have to do 100% either. I can say 50 pixels because and in here what we want is align items center. What I can do, height. Why doesn't I could do like 300 pixels and overflow hidden would work, but it's not the best option, and I want to get rid of that padding left on here. Oh, because that's going to make the height go up. So we don't actually want to do that. Let's just make it 60 pixels for now. We'll figure that out later. So it just gives us a little handle. A little bit of spacing on that. Hours. We got our width, display column. Let's put a padding right of 20 pixels. Let's see, is that too much? Probably only need 10. let's just take a look at what's going on here. So this, we've got margin on the top and bottom. So we could probably get rid of that. The padding's good. And we probably want some padding on hours, actually. Hours is... yeah. So our H3, we've got our padding like that, and we want our margin to be 0. And I'm gonna put the same padding on our hours. Although left we don't necessarily want it, because so maybe what I'm gonna do is just put it on the top and bottom of here and 0 on the left and right, and we'll leave the items on the side to create that padding. And there we go. Okay. So let's just get some of the logic in here. So what we're going to need to do, because we've got our task and our hours and our status coming in, but we need to be able to update those. So we need to be able to, I guess that's the other thing, we will need to be able to edit the task, but for now I'm not going to worry about that. Let's set hours and our set status. And that's got to come in, actually no. So here's where React gets interesting. We need to be able to update this task. The task comes from the task list, these tasks, which ultimately comes from our tasks here. So we've got these states, set tasks. So in order to update that task, let's give these an ID. And then we will need to pass this down. So our task form has set task sets to add them. Our task list has tasks. I'm not entirely sure if this is the best way. We'll go this way here first, but because each task will need to be able to update the tasks. So then in our task list, we get our tasks and our set tasks. The task comes in and it needs to be able to update. So then our task has set tasks, or do I just, it's going to have an ID. No, I don't need this. So yeah, so our task is going to have some state. Let's do that. Actually, you know what? I got to think on this, what the best way to do this is going to be. We do want to be able to update the tasks individually. We could do that on this individual, but that needs to be able to update the main task list. So there's a bunch of passing around that needs to happen here. Needs to have this. So what I would normally do is do something like this. Import use state from React. Oops, no, not that React. And then in here we would do, say, const hours, set hours equals use state hours. That's not gonna work. So maybe the task just gets pulled in is a better way to do this. And then this will be task dot hours, and status, set status, task dot status. So that's going to be fine. The only difference is now in my task list, instead of each of these being passed in, we need to do that, but we do need to pass in set tasks, because set tasks will need to be called when that updates. Set tasks. Is ID task status hours. It's not valid as a React child. Oh. Dot task. Okay. And now I'm probably going to break these out. There'll be an hours component and a status toggle component. So I'm just throwing everything into here for now. We'll probably rename some of these after, but task hours. Let's just do this here. And I've got these snippets, but do they even work in? No. Anyway, this will be replaced with this, but for now let's just do this. So on click, set hours, prev state plus 0.25. Is that going to work? There we go. A little bit of styling stuff to go there, but then essentially we want the same thing here. Minus, and then we will need to trap against zeros. Because because we don't want it to go below 0. So in order to do that, let's do this. Let's put this into here so that we can, a little bit complex, but that should work. I'll explain that in a second there, if it works. Okay. I might need, oh, there we go, okay. So we can go up, we can go down, and it's going to stop at 0. So basically what this is doing is saying, so on click of this button, we set the hours, we're setting the state, get the previous state, and then we add 0.25 to it. For the minus, we do the same thing, but what we're doing first is we're actually checking to see if the previous state minus the 0.25 is greater than 0. If it is, then do the previous state minus 0.25. If it isn't, then just 0. So that gives us our hours tracking, and like I said, I'm going to pull this out into its own component, but then ultimately we're also going to have to call this set tasks to update the state. I'm not 100% sure that that's the best way to handle it. We'll see. We will see. We will see. But that's it for today. Thanks everybody for coming out. Thank you for the follow. Obingo. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Oebingo? Oebingo. I hope that's right. Thank you again for the follow. Thank you all for hanging out. Today is first day of the new schedule. I'm trying out 8:30 till 10 Mountain Time. We'll see how that goes. Maybe see you tomorrow. Thanks again for coming. Bye for now.